Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Derek and Logan.
Hello. Thanks for listening. Have a good, is that, no, I guess we gotta do the whole thing.
Hey, wait. Where episode?
Right now. It is being recorded right now.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Yeah, it's episode 114 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I am your host. I am fucking exhausted.
Well, good news. Here's what we can do then, because you're exhausted. I hear it's totally acceptable to watch other people's podcasts and then just comment on their podcast, and then that's your own content, and you just release that. There's a thing I saw today. I'm not going to name names or anything, but they took somebody else's entire podcast where they interviewed a dev, and then they were like, I'm just going to watch it and comment on it, and then like that was there. So we should watch them watching someone else.
We should,
comment, and that'll be our entire show.
We should incept, is what you're saying. Okay. And spin the dreidel, or is it just a top? I don't remember. I think it's a top, not a dreidel. But either way, it is. I am back from Hartford, and I am still feeling the effects of Friday night currently. So
for those who need to know, it is, at least where I'm at, 10:15 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, and he's saying I'm still feeling the effects of Friday night.
So Thursday, get into Hartford about noon, about 12, and I'm just fucking famished. So go grab dinner and a or lunch and a drink, 2 drinks, whatever it was. And then head back to the hotel, or like the minute, like get back to the hotel, get a text from Polish guy Rich saying, "Hey, just landed, just got to my hotel. I'm fucking hungry. Just where do you want to meet?" And I'm like, you tell me, buddy. And he's like, "Hey, there's this place called Urban Lodge. Let's just go there." Sounds good. Where is it? It's like 800 feet from your hotel. Oh, okay. So it's across the street from where I was actual 10 minutes ago. So walk back, go to that place. We were at that place for 4 hours, having some drinks, and then we went out to dinner. And I was pretty well tied on. So was Rich, but that night I was able to kind of sleep like a baby a little bit. But then came the next day. Now, for those that don't know, there is a gentleman by the name of Az. Az is from England and is a flesh and blood content creator. Az is every bit the degenerate drinker that I am. Az also was under the assumption that he could go 1-for-1 on drinks with me. Now, this is a poor assumption for anyone to make. It is usually not a pleasant choice for them. It's not pleasant for me, but I don't die from it. And so we start at a barbecue joint to have dinner, and I put away 8 mixed drinks and a couple shots, casual. And as is keeping up okay, we go to the next place. We go to a bar, the same brew pub that was at the day before, and I put away another 5 pints there. And now Az is having some struggles. He is having to hit the puke and rally, and he starts falling behind. Then that place shuts down at midnight, so we go across the street to the Irish place that I was at for dinner the day before, and he nurses the same draft of Smithwick's for the entire time we're there, for the 2 hours-ish that we're there. I paid for 3 more pints, but we got absorbed into a wedding. And so we were just hanging out with the wedding people, and they were buying me drinks. So I don't actually know what the real count was at any point in time. I do know that we hung an L on the crown, though. The colonists are now at least 2-0. So, but all jest aside and all like obviously just things that you shouldn't do to your body aside, that was an immensely good time. We spent a lot of time around some various people that were with us the entire time, including Bryn and Greg and Tommy and Barrett, Vishra, and we then moved on with another group of people, including Riddler Man and a few others. And then we caught on with somebody I'd never met before. That was a Fab player. He's like, "Oh, I listened to your show." I'm like, "Great, come on, let's go." And he like shut it down with us. And props to Mokadashi, right? So that guy's a champion. And so got back to the hotel room at 2:30. And my brain has been a cooked, smooth mess ever since. And so, yeah, I'm still feeling that. I do want to like just quick shout outs before we start getting into the actual flesh and blood of it all to all the people that contributed to just an amazing time that was had. Too many people to name, but everybody that's been named, and we'll add in Flake and Elaine and Jeff O was Jeff O and John and the rest of the Green Tree crew, and obviously the Realm crew is always just top of my list. They're my favorites. Love them to death. We had a great dinner with the Green Tree people, Sam O'Byrne, Mansant, and then the Kayfabe crew with Peter and Majin, and that was just wonderful as well. So thank you all if I interacted with you. Oh, and Optimus TCG for insanely cool looking tokens that I have still and I will always use now for gold, agility, vigor, and might. But honestly, it was probably one of my favorite weekends that I've had playing Flesh and Blood so far. The only thing that would have made it better is if certain people who are on video in front of me were there. I think that would have been better, along with some others that were sorely missed. But it was a wonderful time, and yeah, my heartfelt gratitude goes to everybody that made it that way. So, yeah. I'm not going for a repeat of that anytime soon. That was painful. Any questions on any of that, Charmer?
Yeah. Was Jeff O sporting the coward swoop?
Yes, he had the coward swoop going, as Bryn has coined it, which is perfect. What is my text from Jeff? I usually don't out people's text messages. But holy shit, why are people texting me? Okay. Also, Bryn is legit one of my favorite people at these events. I'm like fully gagged and gooped, man. She fucking slayed me dead. That is the comment after he was given the coward swoop. So that
I kind of have one right now because my hair is not cooperating today. I am a hot mess. I need a haircut. I really need a beard trim. I misunderstood my wife. She was like, "Hey, I think you should grow your beard out." And I was like, "Okay." So it's like really thick and bushy. And then the other day she was like, "Are you going to like trim your beard? Like, why is it so thick?" I was like, "You said to grow it out." She's like, "Well, I meant down here." I said, "I'm not going to have a neck beard."
No,
like,
neck
you
beards.
don't understand. That is like derogatory. No. And she was like, "But I like it." I was like, "You will miss it then because it's not going to be a thing." There's a no neck beard policy over here.
Okay, we don't.
So a little bit of a misunderstanding. So I will likely be trimming up my lumberjack status here, but.
I mean, I think you look good as a lumberjack. That's all I'm saying. But I think you look good either way. So there's that too.
Yeah. You know what I did?
What did you do?
I went to an armory.
You did
week.
What?
That's right. Normally we're like, what do we do in Flesh and Blood? I'm like, I didn't do anything. But I actually went to an armory because, shout out to the GLBX in the Grand Ledge area of Michigan. They changed their armory nights back to Tuesdays, which means I am more likely to make it. I can't promise every Tuesday, but it's a lot easier to make than it is on Wednesdays for me. And so I went, and barring something crazy happening at work tomorrow, I'm hoping to make a repeat of it and go again tomorrow. I know, right? That's what happens. We're going to actually play the game this year. Look out.
Wow, that's a thing. I also played the game, sort of. I played in 3 sealed events. I think my best pool was a 5.5 out of 10. I knew I was absolutely fucked in the calling when my best cards were in Betsy and my best equipment were in Warrior, and I couldn't field an entire Warrior deck. So,
Yeah.
Right. And the first person I sit across from has the full KO suite with Knucklehead, and after he just demolished me, he's like, "Yeah, I have like 9 3-for-7s." I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense." I felt most of those, and I sit down for for Betsy Mirror in round 2, and I'm like, "Okay, good. Maybe something I can kind of claw back in." And I see that they put face down 4 equipment slots. I'm like, "Okay, well that's more than my 2." And the first thing they flip up is Chapeau, and I'm like, "Great." So we lost that one too. Then proceeded to win round 3 and understand that I'm really not going anywhere in this event, and there's a Rabble event that starts soon, and I need those. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop from this one.
So you rabbled on over.
I did. I wound up with 4 copies of the extended art Ravenous Rabble, and I wound Rabble, and I wound up with 4 sets of the Raisin Army and Sellsword promos.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so my Raisin armies are all extended arted and kitted out along with cold foil sellswords, which are the cleanest looking thing on the planet.
Whoever it was that is out there, whoever it is that's out there, and you're thinking like, I want to make some cool custom tokens because I've heard so much about these amazing gold tokens and other things that are floating around. Somebody needs to make the Raisin Army tokens where it's the California raisins on them, because it is the Raisin Army.
Okay. And here's the other thing.
California raisin sellsword tokens are banging, and you know it. You can't even deny it. Especially if it's the California raisins, but then you put like actual swords in their hands instead of any sort of, musical instrument or whatever.
Yeah, and it's actually extended art, so they're actually on a grapevine. So when you hear it through the grapevine, when you have them all there, yeah, I get it. Fuck off and die. But so get your fucking Smucker's face off my goddamn screen. You wipe that face off your head. And so you have poisoned me so deeply that even when my brain goes utterly smooth, the only thing left are shitty puns. Mm-hmm. That's all that's left there. So we're walking, and I'm like, okay, it tells us to turn left on Asylum, and I'm like, but we can just go down this street here. It's the same thing. And my buddy Rhodey who was walking with like, no, you already said. I'm like, yeah, we already committed to the Asylum. And at that point in time, I knew that I had just turned into my dad, which is you.
Yeah.
And so I hate everything. And then I had to deal with Rich and Greg and Jesse Harper just pouring it on when we were out at lunch on Saturday, of just like, and that's when we were sending you messages of, are you erect right now? Because there's a lot of puns flying. I think you can feel them like coursing through you when it happens, and feel my anger from across the country at that point. We figured that would excite you. But you have ruined me over the course of the last year. It is an unpleasant thing.
You, deserve it. You need somebody in your life that will do this to you and for you because you like it. Just like you like my California raisins thing earlier, but to keep it on, the musical trend, the musical avenue, if you will.
Electric Avenue?
No, this is actually going to be
Avenue.
a little bit of a throwback, if you will. In 1996, there was a hit single called Return of the Mac.
Oh, yeah. I remember the Return of the Mac.
Yeah. And it was sang by Mark Morrison.
Mark Morrison, yeah.
Who just happened to win a Flesh and Blood event in Hartford.
He did. Actually win. I don't think it's the same dude.
Oh, no, it was not. German-born British singer.
Correct. I'm pretty sure. I'm guessing that this Mark Morrison that won the battle or the Calling in Hartford may not have been born when that song came out. Just
that hurts me inside.
Throwing it
man.
out there. I know. I was in a I was outside of a bathroom, and some Magic players were talking, and one of them was like, yeah, it's just so cool that like I'm playing with these cards that were, printed before I was born. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah. They're like, yeah, it's so cool. Like when I play Arcbound Ravager, I'm like, man, this card's older than me. And like my heart actually shattered in my chest. And I'm like,
it hurts.
Ow. First, ow, that card was printed in like 2003. Like, ow.
Mm-hmm.
And I really was hoping to hear like Chains of Mephistopheles, something that is 30 years old. Not something that is 20 years old. Right.
Yeah.
So that broke me a little bit. But,
oh man, yeah, that's right up there with Stark picked up something from school, because he's at that age now. He's in middle school where he's picking stuff up from school. And I caught him saying the words late 1900s the other day, and I almost choked.
Ow.
He was like, yeah, it's from the late 1900s.
God damn it. Yeah, it's from the aughts. And you're like, oh, so they're talking about 1900. No, they're talking about 2002.
Yeah.
Fuck you. It sucks being old. Oh, well. But at least there was a Calling, and it was very, very cool. Very well attended, by the way. It was the biggest event in the room, alongside Magic and Lorcana. And, but Dead Game.
Yeah.
Don't forget Dead Game. The people enjoyed the sealed format a lot, it turns out. And while sealed is always going to be a lottery, there's just no way around that. You can't build sets that are specifically good for sealed because pack variants will always exist. So that being said, you can never just build a set that is great in sealed. It just isn't really possible. However, this is probably as close as you're going to get. It's very good. It's very interactive. The draft, so the top 8 was stacked. We already talked about the winner and singer of Return of the Mac, Mark Morrison, alongside Michael Hamilton, Tarek Patel, Cody Williams, Ellie Bird, Yuanji Lee, David Lee, and Alexander Vore. That's a lot.
A little bit. It's a good thing that they had all their time to prep by banking on the money they made from their 1996 hit single Return of the Mac.
Yeah. And also that clearly all the experience that all of these people gained at the Celebrational by having access to the set early and that extra prep really impacted things. Because exactly... None? Is it none of these people were there? Or was Yuanji at the Celebrational? I actually don't remember. But
I don't know, man. I'm not cool enough to have went, so I don't remember.
Oh no,
everybody.
not even remotely, no. But and judging from like the experiences I heard that were going on there, a lot of those people don't actually remember being there much either for parts of it. Because getting blasted was definitely on the menu. But why am I being texted? This is always annoying. But it's interesting to me looking at heavy hitters, how intricate the draft is. And then also having played a few drafts while I was there, I didn't drop a game in draft on the weekend. And I didn't drop a game in CC on the weekend. So that's nice. The playing CC Kasai is just too much fun, by the way. Like I have 5 lists and I'm pretty comfortable playing any of them. And yeah, just whatever feels good right there. That's fine. But it's very interesting how intricate the draft is. Like we were in a draft where I think that was the first draft I played. I ended up playing 2. where Greg, Flake, Elaine, and I decide to queue into a draft together. And we get seated in perfect team killing position. So Elaine and Greg are playing each other in round 1, and I'm playing Flake.
Mm-hmm.
And then Elaine is on my right passing to me. And she's going to force Kasai. But she starts passing me things that make me go, maybe there's room for like both of us to be okay from this spot. And we both were very okay from that spot. I'm like, okay. But she did pass me 3 goblets, which was nice of her. But so we ended up in a spot where like we were back-to-back warrioring and totally fine. She won her first round. I beat Flake first round. She had a really close second round and wound up getting, what is it called? It's the 3 for 7. If it has tower, it makes all your non-equipment cards block for -1. And her opponent had set up Big Bop Red Might Token. So her hand just didn't block, like, at all. So that was fun. So that's what got her.
Which one is that?
Like
Lay Down the Law.
Lay Down the Law. That's it.
Sorry, I kept thinking about Colossal Bearing, but that's the one that blows up equipment. Lay Down the Law is the 3 for 7.
Yep. And got blown out by that, which, okay. Then I had a very close Betsy match there too. But I ended up with enough prize wall tickets to buy an alpha pack. So now I have an alpha pack. I'm just waiting for another courageous soul to obtain an alpha pack so I can flip and rip this. Because I went up with Bryn and we both bought an alpha pack with tickets. But as on the way up, I'm like, okay, so we're going to buy these and flip and rip them, right? And she's like, yeah, I mean, no. And I'm like, you said yes first. You don't want to be a liar. And she's like, I am not ripping this pack. And I'm like, but flip and rip.
Flip and rip.
But she did open it and opened a pink foil razor. So, okay. That would have probably hurt somebody's feelings to tear in half. But I still have an alpha pack sitting here. So, ready to tear half of it into pieces as soon as somebody is willing to participate with me. We also had the Battle Hardened. Now, this was intriguing because a lot of things happened in that Battle Hardened that were kind of fascinating. So we'll jump to the end first, where we had Yuki Lee Bender on KO beating Majin Bay on Kano. So Majin's up to his bullshit. No, nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
And just blasting.
Every time he would update his Twitter, I was keeping an eye on it. I was out with my kids, so I couldn't watch the coverage at the time. But every time I would check my Twitter for updates, it was just like a picture of him doing like 60 damage, and the only thing he was just like still blasting all weekend blasting.
Yeah, he actually killed Lucas Oswald within 1 minute of the game clock. Oops.
Yep. Kano doing Kano things.
But KO did KO things too. So the interesting data points for me here, or just points in general for me here, are: 1, the most represented hero in the room was Dromai. And no Dromai's in the top 8. However, both Mara Faris and Austin Shantz were 6-2 and bubbled out of the top 8. So it's not like there was 0 top end representation. They just didn't convert right into a top 8. The top 8 was 2 KOs, 2 Bravos, a Kasai, a Kano, a Levia, and a Dash. And it's Rose Smythe on Dash. So yeah, sure. It's a Battle Hardened and Rose is playing Dash. So of course Rose is in the top 8. That's just how math works. Mm-hmm. So the things that stand out to me about this top 8 are the KOs, the Levia, and the Kasai for obvious reasons. But starting with the KOs, they were presenting mass amounts of damage in just giant chunks. And Yuki specifically, watching some of the play as it was unfolding in between rounds, was doing a masterful job of pitch stacking to the point of knowing when a bellow was coming, and that the next, so that could go into arsenal and block, and then the next hand would be stacked with 3 blocks and a cast bones with nothing but 6s on the top. And so it's block 9 if needed. And then your turn is cast bones passed, and they probably aren't going to be able to do enough damage to kill you, but you're going to do enough damage to kill them on a blood rush turn that is guaranteed 6s across the board. And watching the bomb go off was just like, holy shit, that's a lot. Like, fuck, that's a lot of damage. So KO looks like the real deal. And the thing about it is, we talked about this when we read the hero, that the scariest part of KO is the consistency. And now we've seen a master already exploit the consistency to the point of, okay, all of these cards are 6s because of KO static ability. So I can just not worry about the specific cards I'm pitch stacking to a degree. They just need to be attacks because all of my attacks are 6s. And that's just incredible. So I think KO is definitely real, is definitely scary, as we thought would be. And I also think it's fascinating that on basically the first time any heavy hitters hero can get living legend points, they did. Like, well, has that ever happened outside of Starvo? Like, where a hero on day 1, the first event possible, wound up tacking on living legend points.
So I'm having a hard time remembering that far back because it was literally just before I started playing. But my gut wants to say that I think Chain did it.
That's possible.
Now, granted, there wasn't like necessarily a ton of like competition to overcome there, because if I remember it, I think like Dash was doing really well at the time and things like that. But I feel like Chain did it, but I would have to go back and look. But that is
I think that was still Ninja Turtle Katsu.
I mean, it was during that era, but Chain like still.
But drone, this was drone Katsu.
So this is why I'm having a hard time remembering, because like when I started playing during Monarch, and when I started playing, drone had already been banned. So I don't remember when that happened and if it aligned with like day 1 Chain stuff. I just remember Chain found success very early.
Yes,
because he was like already the favorite to win Nats, like right after being like, even before like Nats, like even with the Road to Nats stuff, when I was doing a bunch of testing with like Cosmic at the time, Flake and a bunch of others, like we were talking, because I mean this was like early stages of the game, but up there in Canada, Flake was really concerned because he had to play at the shop where like Dante Delfico was, and that was like a big deal at the time, and I just like laugh about that. Thinking about it now,
it's funny as shit now.
But he was saying something about like, you know, hey, they're like playtesting, but they're super secretive. And both Cosmic and I remember in the Discord, we were like, "There's nothing to be secretive
about.
Just
playing Chain.
It's Chain."
Yeah, they're just playing.
And then sure enough, like on the day of, it was 100%. He was on, you know, Chain or whatever. So like, I feel like that was it, because like Seed's Chain right after he came out was definitely the sauce, but. It was like just my only uncertainty is, like I said, when he released, it was just before I started playing, right? So like, I remember like when I started, it was early in Monarch, like Unlimited hadn't come out yet. It was post first, but pre-Unlimited was when I started. But even in that window, everyone was like Turbo on Chain is the best deck already. So if it wasn't day 1, it was not shortly after. I'll put it that way. But
yeah, I mean, okay, so that would make sense. I think, and I guess don't quote me here, but I honestly think that so chain bound by shadow. I'm looking at deck lists and seeing how far back I can go. So goes all the way back to the 2021, which would make sense. Belgian national champion. No, this can't be right. Unless like nothing with living legend points kind of happened before then, which is possible. Yeah, I don't know. It looks like late 2021 would have been the first time that Chain got any living legend points per like what the deck lists have on Fab TCG, but that can't be right.
Yeah, I mean it might be just because I think that was the first, like, I think that was the RTN season when like they first would have been available. Because you have to remember in those early days, there wasn't a lot of opportunities to get the living legend points really either.
No. That's the thing is, we were doing it live as per normal, but tournament, classic constructed, chain bound by shadow. Nope. Okay. So that looks like right, but I don't know if that was the first opportunity either. Was that that national season or that RTN season or whatever? It very well could be. But I think it's also, but I guess where I'm going with this is we've come from a spot where everything kind of felt slowed down and depowered. Mm-hmm. So older heroes were catching up, and then out of the gate, we're already like smashing with heavy hitters heroes.
Granted, it wasn't living legends points, but didn't Brody win an event right after Outsiders on Azalea? And wasn't she a brand new hero in that set? She definitely didn't exist
might as well have been,
right?
Yeah, might as well have been. Yeah, the brand new hero was Codex of Frailty. That was the brand new hero. But sort of, I get that. And I think it's, again, like, so this feels a little bit as advertised, right? Like we were told that they're going to notch things back up, after depowering a little bit after Aria into Everfest. And this is the corner turn towards the other direction. And immediately in the first, event that really could add living legend points, or at least the first weekend of events that could add living legend points, we see, 3 copies of Heavy Hitters heroes sitting in the top 8 of a Battle Hardened. Like, that's a thing. So I'm very interested in when we can start seeing Betsy's and start seeing Victor's also, like, maybe making a little bit of a splash here. I don't know about Olympia. I think maybe not. And Reinar is, I don't know what to think about Reinar, because Reinar just seems, the inconsistent brute, right? And splashy, sure. But if you could just play a consistent brute, why wouldn't you? Like, what's the reason not to?
Fun.
Oh, okay. That's a good reason. I'm with it. Reinar is probably more fun.
So, I mean, it's also like the streaky thing. Flesh and Blood is a single deck game. And so usually you do want to go with the consistent list, and even more so in Flesh and Blood because it rewards skill more so than almost any other card game, if not for sure more than any other card game, right? It's like definitely in the mix anyway. It makes sense to go with the consistent one, but as somebody who's covered a lot of card games, normally when you go into like a 3-deck format, for example, it's funny because a deck like Reinar in a 3-deck format ends up being fantastic because you usually need some luck when you go to 3 decks. Usually it's like you bring what you think is the best deck in the format, and then you expect that to be banned, and then it's usually either 2 decks you're very comfortable on, or like one deck you're comfortable on and one deck that can just like accidentally win you games, because sometimes people will ban that just because they don't want to deal with it. Because, you know, if you ever have like an oops, I win, it feels real bad. So it's just interesting because like the decks that do have a bit more variance, you know, that variance goes both ways, and you can go on a heater, right? Like you can go on a streak of just like, oops, like you've got one card to block with for 3 straight turns and now the game's over. So that can be appealing to some folks. Do I think that it's going to, you know, be consistent enough that it's going to be like the go-to choice? No, but I think by design he's not supposed to be. That being said, where right now I think Kano's actually in a really good spot, but in the past you used to have people who would bring Kano as like a, you know, if nobody brought AB or maybe I get the oops, I win. Reiner could be the physical version of that, and I think that's kind of where they want to keep him, just because he adds some excitement, but they don't want him to be so consistent that he just makes the other decks unplayable, because it's just not a fun experience, obviously, for the other player when they can't do anything on their turn. So yeah, I think that's ultimately where we will see it.
I mean, that makes sense to me, and we're seeing it bear out now. A note on the Kasai deck. So Kasai also, we'll get into this in a little bit. Kasai also was in the top 8 of the PTI event in Manila, and I believe KO was too. I couldn't find the full top 8. But I'm also, again, very smooth brain right now. I'm very bad at Googling. So that tells you something. When you're bad at fucking Googling, shit has gotten real. Like I need a night of sleep and like a couple of days of drying out. I think that would work out really great for me right now, which is unfortunately probably not happening. So it's a Super Bowl on Sunday, but
and I don't even know if I'll be home in time for it.
Oh, because you'll be in Minneapolis. That's right.
Well, yeah, I'll be coming home that day, but
yeah. And so right now, I'm looking at these Kasai lists and they're all over the place. There's crazy shit going on here of like super all in, peeling it back and playing a little bit, like a little less all in, or increasing, like just saying, you know what, variance, fuck it, let's just pile into the variance wagon and see what happens. Playing things like, you know, playing cards like Seduce Secrets, so that you can play it out of Arsenal, get some information, and draw a card and make your swords free. Like, saw some of that. Saw, you know, people are playing Crown of Dominion to just make the have a gold, like for whatever. People playing a big yeah, right. Good. Yeah. Why would you want to block? People playing, you know, a large, you know, copper plan to have, you know, pop off blood on their hands turns. The list in Manila did not have any raisin armies in the main, in the main deck. It was all blood on their hands. Like it was copper dot deck, and had raises in the sideboard. Which, I mean, quick tangent. There are no fucking sideboards in Flesh and Blood. You just have your pool of cards. You take out what you don't want in a matchup. Like, it's not sideboarding.
That's not true.
What? Come on. Tell me why it's not true.
Because I don't start with my Null Rune gear and then take it out. I sideboard that in.
Why wouldn't you just take it out?
Because I can't have 2 sets of like gloves and boots and stuff, right? Like my Null Rune gear or Kano is sideboard cards.
Everything is one pile. Mm-hmm. And the things that you are not going to present to your opponent get taken out of said pile. That includes equipment.
Yeah. But I don't do it that way. I have my normal equipment and then I have my wizard equipment. And that's always separate because I don't want to take it out every game. Because I only play a wizard anytime I'm in the same tournament as Majin. It's literally the only time I run into him.
Or Peter.
No, I don't think I've ever played against Peter.
Oh, okay. Well then, sure.
But I've definitely played against Majin.
Played against Majin.
Every time,
every single time. Yeah, every time that you can be in the same the event as Majin, you're just going to play Majin.
I just know.
Yeah, it's like a sixth sense. But not to be outdone, I guess, but we did have the Battle Hardened in Manila, which was a blitz event. It was won by a victor going wire to wire in blitz with no losses. So again, we're coming back to it. Day one, a heavy hitter's hero comes out and spikes a tournament with again, runs the table, no losses. So we're already seeing that this set is going to have more of an impact than any of the previous couple of sets, at least Dusk Till Dawn and Bright Lights out of the gate, at least. And I am very fascinated by this kind of turn, right? Because this is a very quick, we go from these heroes that are kind of depowered are going to need some help to kind of crawl into relevancy, and straight to slam these fucking lists into the wall and win events, just straight out of the gate. That's a big design shift and a big mentality shift right away. It kind of makes me very interested in what's going forward. I am also dog shit at opening like expensive cards out of heavy hitters, by the way. I'm very bad at it. Like, I'm so bad at it that I entered a case break in the Warrior slot. And out of the 4 boxes in the case break, 0 Marvels, 0 Legendaries, and 3 Warrior Majestics were opened.
Yikes.
Right. That's brutal. As I'm watching like pieces of it while I'm just out on Friday night with as I'm watching pieces of the stream, I'm noticing like I'm seeing a Guardian Legendary opened out of every box. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It was Clark, running the break, so it makes sense that his hands touching a box would immediately pull Guardian cards to the top. That tracks, honestly. But the PTI event in Manila was actually won by Bravo, though. Come by Bustamante on Bravo. So Bravo did get some living legend points, so we know that Bravo is playable, and there was 2 Bravos sitting in the top 8 of the Battle Hardened as well. So Bravo is real in this format. It at least seems like early on, like early returns, which should make you happy.
Yeah, I don't expect him to go away. I think that what's really going to end up happening is I think until the other decks settle down, you're not going to know whether you should be playing Bravo or Victor, because I think both are good into different decks.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
Because like, just as a for example thing, right? Bravo, I think, still has the premier like disruption threatens. Yes. And so I think he's very good into an aggressive meta where you would expect to see a bunch of ninjas. So like if your local meta or your extended area, right? If you're talking about like RTN season, it is one where you expect Phais and Katsus and things like that. I think Bravo is a much better choice, because the ability to dominate your crush effects and have things like Spinal Crush be relevant is really important in those matchups. Now, if it's not going to like be the aggressive things, and it's either going to be more mid-rangey or you expect other Guardians or whatever, then Victor, I think, is going to be better, because you can still get all of the defensive prowess of what Bravo brings, but then you can go heavier on the Clash, and some of the new Clash blocks are really strong. Making the gold to help cycle through your bad turns, if I'm being honest, is entirely fine. There's just a lot of things that he does from an annoyance standpoint as well. So if you're talking about decks like Azalea, for example, Azalea is one that likes certain, combo pieces to set up their big turns. And then if you can, even just with the Miller's Grindstone, threaten like milling some of those key pieces away, even if you're not fatiguing them, you can kind of get lucky and get rid of those. So I think it will just kind of be meta dependent. I think that if it's a slower grindier meta, people will favor Victor, and places where Bravo will shine will be the same place that he always has. But if there's a lot of like go wide options, he'll do very well into those.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Also, from what I've kind of gathered early, Bravo's still much better into Dromite. So that is also a thing.
No, I think that makes sense just because, it's interesting, right? Victor has to run a critical mass of things that are tall enough to win the clashes, but then you also have to have the cards that care about the clashing to begin with. And so into Dromai, some of those clash cards are not as strong.
No.
I mean, they're not worthless, or it's not like they're dead cards by any stretch, but they're not quite as strong. And then that's where I think Bravo shines. Also, again, some of those on-hit disruptive effects are just more relevant against a Dromai. So again, like a Spinal Crush, being able to make it so that the dragons can't get go again. They have to rely on a Chromai for the extra action points, that sort of thing. That's all going to be very relevant in that matchup. So I also think that it's probably still easier with a Bravo to run Rouse and run like Zealous Belting. And some of those cards are very important for, like, if you're playing against Big Dragon Dromai, using those to clean up some of those. And then even if you're not against Big Dragon Dromai, just being able to keep pace with the aggressive version. There's just, like I said, I would consider Dromai to be, in theory, a go wide deck. She's not quite the same. I mean, she can be if it's like Mars version, but it's not quite the same. But I put her in that same kind of category, right? When you're trying to gauge what your meta is going to be.
Yeah, and also, like, very important is if you attack a dragon, you don't clash. So it turns off a bunch of your effects that you'd want to have on an attack if you need to clean up a dragon with an attack.
Yeah, you can only clash with an opponent.
Correct. So attack a dragon, there's no clashing. Same thing with like clash cards blocking an ally, doesn't trigger the clash.
And so that's
had a lot of undos on Talishar with Centauri Sellswords and clash blocks. But like it's not letting me clash. I'm like, because it's not a hero. It's a dude.
Yeah.
Just a donkey. You don't clash with the donkey. You clash with heroes. And the hero's not attacking you. You're being attacked by a donkey.
Batman doesn't clash with henchmen. He clashes with the villains. The henchmen are just obstacles.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Robin clashes with the henchmen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why you have a Robin.
Right, because he's a henchman.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Batman's also just shit anyway, so that's fine. I mean, come on. You have enough money to cure the reasons that crime is likely to happen, and instead you use that money to put on a fucking rubber suit and dress like a bat to then punish them.
It hurts me. I can't believe you're making me do this. It hurts me to admit this, but there has been some pretty well-written runs where they actually address that, and what they say is that the corruption is so deep that even when you try to feed it, it gets embezzled and siphoned off and blah, 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 blah. Because that's the same problem I have. The same problem I have with Batman is that Batman to me is he's the same character as Tony Stark, and I find Tony Stark more interesting.
That's because Tony Stark understands when he's morally reprehensible.
Well, he does and he doesn't, but also, so like to me, I always say Tony Stark's actual arch nemesis, like when you talk about how
Tony Stark.
Yeah, every hero has one. It's his own hubris, right? It's himself. He gets in his own way most of the time. And I don't know, I find that more compelling.
I think you find it more relatable.
Well, yeah, that too. Listen, if I ever get out of my own way, look out.
That's right.
It's over for you bitches.
I mean, sure. I guess. You know what we should do?
Maybe?
We should go camping.
Yeah, we should do that.
We should go fucking
camping.
What?
No, that sounds awful. Yeah.
How does that sound awful?
I don't know, man. I just work here.
That's fine. We can go to Camp Green Tree in August, August 15th through 18th. Green Tree Sports Cards in Pittsburgh is running a camping excursion for Flesh and Blood. They rented out an entire fucking campground. And the cabins therein and everything else. And they're running Flash and Blood summer camp. So on the Friday of the camp, there will be activities. There'll be a runic language course with Mr. Viz. There will be arts and crafts with Rune Babe, Anna Shreve. There will be some debauchery potentially. By potentially, I mean almost a guarantee at this point. But more importantly, there will be a Saturday 5K classic constructed Realm Brawl that can qualify you for the Realm 50K Invitational. And then Sunday, there's a 2K Blitz event with that same kind of qualification on the line. And so we had this like thing where we want to do a poker tournament where the buy-in is an alpha pack. And then if you get one rebuy, which will cost you another alpha pack, and then the winner of the tournament rakes the alpha packs, which will just probably be Charmer. But this seems like a really good place to do that is at Flesh and Blood summer camp.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
I can't wait to get marshmallow from my s'mores on my alpha pack.
I mean, just don't be so fucking sloppy about it. Is that so hard to do?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Okay. It's a little bit. So
every time I've tried to eat a s'mores cleanly, it just doesn't happen.
This is the one free ad we are giving them for this. We've decided to break our no free ads commitment because that to me this is pretty fucking cool. I don't really recall anything quite like this that's an open to the public sort of thing. Numerous times in Magic there were draft camps which were sort of similar. We'd be renting out a hotel block along with like the conference center in the hotel to then just run cycle drafts over and over and over again, learning a new set and whatnot. This is, I guess, somewhat similar, but those were just sort of invite only. This is open to the public. It is in the middle of nowhere by State College, Pennsylvania, so by Penn State University. I think all of the people around there that we need to worry about have already been arrested, but we can always take a minute to make sure there are no Sandusky's around. And yeah, this is different to me. And there are hotel options around if you're not interested in being on the campground, but there are also cabins. You can always set up a tent. You can do whatever. It sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like exactly the kind of thing that the people involved in this, your Johns and from Green Tree and your Keiths of the world, would definitely get behind and want to do because it's unique. And I really applaud just like the forward thinking of it all. What can we do differently? I know that on Twitter today, Tales of Alex went out and made the comment, how do we get Flesh and Blood spreading faster in Europe? And one of the answers that was given, I believe it was by Matt McInnes, was grassroots tournament organization. Because that has done so much in my mind for Flesh and Blood in the US is the Realm, is MinMax, is Green Tree, is AGE. All of them doing their own, doing their own thing, but also pulling in LSS as a partner caused a ripple effect where we have a broader scene. Although, like, I do agree with the West Coast complaints.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
There's some underrepresentation in a place that is very populous and home to, a lot of very good players. So I do believe there's some lack of representation of events over there. I hope obviously there's a Pro Tour and a Calling in Los Angeles, but I really hope that we kind of see more stray that way as far as battle hardens go and some of these other, like tier 2 events versus just the premier events. I really hope that that's the case, but we'll see. Right. But I really hope that happens. But the answer to the question is stuff like this. Stuff like this is how you spread the game awareness, or you make it grow, is you do things at that community level for organization. These are people that are not waiting to be told what to do. These are people who are just doing. And that was very Nike of me. Fuck off. God, I really don't like you, Charmer. But
I love you.
I love you to death. But you've poisoned my brain.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole.
Somebody gets to drink from the fire hose. Completely different movie. But like I want more of this, right? I want more realm cruises. I want more I want to play Flesh and Blood on a riverboat that's going down the Mississippi. I want to walk into the random convention that is bigger and have a Flesh and Blood tournament going on, because when I inevitably suck, I can just go to the convention. Like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I want those sorts of things. I want to play Flesh and Blood in space. I mean, who doesn't? I don't really want underwater Flesh and Blood a whole lot, but I could be convinced. But the real commentary here,
maybe not underwater, but I would play it like an aquarium.
Yeah, I'd 100% play at an aquarium. I want to be judged by a whale or a shark or a dolphin or something. I want some sea-dwelling creature to judge my misplays.
Listen, you're going to be like, Judge, I think you misruled it. Did you do that on purpose? And it's going to go,
yeah, that's what'll happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I do this. But this is my sort of keep it up.
Yeah.
And us as a community, if we agree that this is something that is cool and we want to see more of, we just need to make sure that we're doing our part by attending and giving that feedback, telling them what could be better, telling them what what we want, so that there's always improvement. And that's where the community aspect comes in, is attending, giving feedback, so we can keep making the best events across the board, and just continue to grow the game that way. That's, I think, the best thing we can do here, and it's also probably the best thing that we can teach other emerging markets to do. Like, we can be at that grassroots level, like as a community of people, we can be an example to help grow the game worldwide. And we should do that. Like, we almost have an obligation to do that if you feel any connection to this game. And obviously we do, because it's been 114 goddamn weeks. But that's where I'm at with it. Do you have anything to add to that, Charmer?
I think that's all fine. I especially liked the aquarium idea. It has my seal of approval.
I knew that was coming. I really did. I saw that and I couldn't get out of the way.
No.
Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think I'm at the end.
Because we're going for like one of the record shortest shows right now. It's going to be great.
No, that sounds like a sham. Ooh, if I've ever heard one.
Just no. Please don't.
For the younger audience, there was a very famous orca named Shamu.
There was
SeaWorld.
Well, we ought to end this, right? Yeah.
You see, you mock it, and then you can't.
That didn't feel good at all.
Yeah, you can't get away from it though. You can't get away from it.
I don't need a shower. I need a fucking exorcism. Like, that's what I need. But first, I need to thank some patrons because they're the lifeblood of what we do.
What about listener questions?
Yeah, they didn't ask any. I mean, I can't ask if it's not answered. I can't answer if it's not asked.
Are you sure?
Oh God, am I sure? Yes.
Yeah, nothing in the Discord. Wow.
Yeah, they're slacking. And I'm here for it, actually. A quick show tonight is actually just...
No, I mean, that's fine. I have plenty of stuff to do as well. I'm already dreading next week because, like clockwork, anytime we ever have a show where there's no listener questions, we get like 10 the following week.
If we do a smooth hour show, hour and change show, you can about guarantee the next one is 2+. Because people would be like, oh, we took it easy on you. No, we can't do that ever again. Let's just punish you by asking 17 different questions. Some of them as enlightening as if you could market any sex toy with a flesh and blood name, what would it be and what would you name it? Don't do this. Do not do this. But or we'll be talking more about Argus the werewolf spanker, which is already
fleshlight with blood.
You see, that sounds like you have a fleshlight with an additional feature, and that feature is blood, and that's already a lie.
I know exactly what it sounds like.
Okay. Nobody Google that. Please do not do that. But just know that...
Or do it.
You know what? I'm not your dad. Fuck it. Like, you want to do it?
Listen, so we're breaking all the rules. Hashtag free ads. For the folks who are interested in Star Wars Unlimited, you should watch the FFG live stream this weekend.
Yeah, please do. There will be Charmer on it and Flake on it, and Doa on it.
Well, for sure, Flake. I don't know if I'm going to be on it or not. I'm definitely going to have access to the devs. I'm going to be there playing games. Flake and Doa will be. Don't want to spoil too much, but there is some like scheduled stuff, and we nominated Flake for that part, in large part just because I already had access to a bunch of the devs at Gen Con, and Doa's their local, so he's had access, so we're trying to spread the love, but also Flake's just the best of us anyway, let's be honest.
Yeah. I hate admitting that sometimes, though. Kind of hurts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it kills me inside. But
yeah, well, I mean, you were already dead inside.
It's a good thing he'll never hear me say it, though. I know he doesn't listen to this show.
Yeah, it's true. You'll never understand how much we're jealous of how attractive and smart and successful he is. I mean, I've never wrote a book. Have you ever read a book?
Oh, I wrote a book. It just wasn't published.
I mean, he's a published fucking author.
Published author. Has reviews on Amazon and everything.
Yeah, I don't have that in my wallet. Like, I can't pull that out.
The only tenants I have for my landlording business, if you will, is my wife and kids.
Yeah, same thing. Well, I guess I actually do have roommates, and
do yours pay rent though? Because mine don't.
Mine do. I mean,
so you're already
nominally, but
yeah,
it's still, I guess, something. But let's thank some patrons, shall we? We're going to thank our associate producers, Alex, Andy, C-Dub, Sindra, Donnie K, Jacob, Kenny, Larry, and the Salty Sea Cat. We also then have our executive producers on up, which are Blaze Storm, Dom, Lance Good Thrust, which, glad to hear you're okay, buddy. Sorry I couldn't see you in Hartford. Matt Two Tokes, Pox on us, Papa Mike. Now, Papa Mike, let me give a quick one here. Papa Mike had a bag full of booze, which should shock no one. And in said bag, there was fucking pineapple moonshine. This shit drank like lighter fluid. But afterward, you're like, oh, that's kind of pleasant outside of the actual inferno that's going on inside of me right now. The rest of it's kind of nice. but still one of the best ever is Papa Mike. Philip, Rich, again, big shout out to Rich for the weekend. Spent a lot of time, had a lot of laughs, had a lot of drinks. Always a good feel and a good hang. Taylor and Trevor, if you're interested in becoming a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/Flesh and Pod. The link will be in the show notes. There are some number of tiers. Any paid tier gets you into FAP After Dark. I think the next After Dark is going to have Az on it, and I'm very concerned because Az was taking GoPro footage that entire Friday night, and I don't know what's on there. I really don't. It could be a lot of things, but I do remember some like Irish dudes yelling Oasis lyrics with their tarps off and dancing on tables. I don't know if that was real or made up, but I do have a vague recollection of it, like right here. At any rate, so yeah, the next After Dark will prove to be probably very fucked. Let's just put it that way. If you need to contact the show, the best ways to get a hold of us are you can email us, which is fleshandpod@gmail.com. Links in the show notes. Do recall that any complaints in Discord will go to Dom, who is the complaints department. Any email complaints will go to directly to Flesh and Pod Legal, which is a subsidiary of Black Hole Legal, which is still the trash can next to Jordan Kennedy's desk. Somebody did reference that to me this weekend after they asked me to sign a card for them, and I'm like, perfect. And directly after that, Jeff O asked for their Sharpie so I could sign his boobs. So, sure. Yeah, where was I? Oh, and the best thing to do is actually to follow us on Twitter at FleshPod, like and subscribe on YouTube. That whole like button thingy. We're getting more YouTube views now, which is great. But yeah, that whole thingy, do the thing with the bell and the thing and the whatever. I don't fucking know. And then the Discord is the most important part, though. Links in the show notes. Free to join. Hop on in anytime. There's a lot of bullshit that goes on in the Discord. There's also where the listener question channel is. So you can flood the channel with listener questions and make it so that we have to talk for fucking 3 hours. Just saying. Charmer, where can they find you?
You can find me here next week.
Allegedly.
Talking about my second armory in a row.
Oh my
First,
God.
now that I've said that, the universe is going to shut me down, but yeah. I'm going to try.
Hey, how'd that first one go? You never even said.
It went pretty well. Made it like to what would be the finals of the armory, if you will. And then I lost to Akatsu. I was playing Uzuri, just drew the wrong half of my deck. I didn't draw any of my like power attacks. I had like this weird scenario where I legit drew the same 4-card hand almost 3 turns in a row. There was like 1 card different on the third time, but I just fell behind. And then by the time I drew my power cards, I was in a position where like I couldn't take the damage to then have like a comeback. But other games went well. Beat a Kano, beat a Rhinar. Just felt good to sit down and play the game again, though, honestly, more than anything.
Yeah, that's good. Well, see if you can get that smooth W on the next go round. I'm rooting for you.
I will say the most important piece, or at least this is the thing that I always gauge as the most important piece, was we had a newer player that was there that like I played against them, but I was like trying to help them while I was playing, and it sounds like they're going to come back. And when I say newer, I mean like they were playing with unsleeved cards, that sort of thing. I'll probably bring up a bunch of my bulk or whatever.
Yeah, get them sorted out.
Yeah. But that's always encouraging, right? Just like when we were on the cruise ship, if I ever have the chance to like help teach somebody, I love doing that. And so that was really nice.
Oh, good. Like that's kind of the best, right? When you get that new player sitting down and you're just able to sort of teach them the game as you're playing. I've actually taught people and they beat me as I was teaching them. Like,
yeah, like I just very specifically, there was one point where like they went to do something against me, and then I was like, hey, like, do you mind if I stop you and tell you what you should be doing against me right now? he was like, oh yeah, sure. And then I was like, all right, this is what you want to do. And here's the reasons why and stuff like that. Because I just think like those are the kind of interactions that will bring people back. And especially now that, so this is actually something that we've kind of touched on in the past, but now that XP isn't a requirement for qualifying for things, I don't have to feel extra. I mean,
Right.
I never personally felt bad anyway, but now it's even like less so that I have to feel bad about it.
Yeah.
As far as like, if I give up some XP to teach somebody how to play at an armory, like who cares?
It gives a shit. Yeah.
So I don't know. It feels good to do that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then pretty soon we'll be hitting RTN season, so we'll have those to talk about. I don't know if you'll actually hit up any, but I know I will.
I'm going to do my best. I won't
know.
do well.
Well,
but...
yeah, I mean, that's...
Unless it's the draft ones. I usually do well with the draft ones, but...
Oh, sure. I think I have 2 draft ones and 2 CC ones, but I'm not
Every RTN I think I've actually qualified for Nats for was through draft. I don't think I've ever qualified in CC. I always get to my win and in, and I think I lose because... It's like what, top 4, right?
It's top 4, yeah. So you lose in the quarters.
So yeah, usually I usually like bubble out of the top 8 or but draft I usually do well.
Ah, there you go. All right, well, I mean that actually ended up being 1 hour and 11 minutes, but yeah, so that's all I've got for this week, and we will, as always, talk to you again next week. Bye.